Shut talk. 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 Shut talk.
G'day, everyone. Welcome to Monday, the 27th of September. Hopefully you're doing really well. We've had a pretty good Monday today. Everybody's happy and busy and working well. I've had a few really interesting messages from people from their weekend. Anyway, you know who you are. Had a great weekend. It's really good to hear from you. Today's Shop Talk is going to be a little bit different again. It's going to be a little bit mindset-y, I guess. I'm not sure if that's actually a word, mindset-y, but it's going to be around some of the thinking. And I think this will resonate with many of you because some of the conversations we're having, I think, center around some of the fatigue. I think COVID fatigue is the thing, like any kind of fatigue. And I think we, at this stage in the year leading up until this busy period of time, we want to get super clear on what it is that's going to drive us internally to keep taking the next step and the next step and the next step. Sometimes it's really difficult to think about the step because the step up is painful and difficult. But unfortunately, that's the way business is. We've always got to be taking steps forward. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to try and make it easy for you. So one of the conversations that keeps coming up is just broadly from the group, but also from, I guess, many people out in the industry. The questions are being asked: why does it look so easy for other people? Like, have you ever stopped and wondered, why is it so easy for other people? Like, what is it that they're doing that I'm not doing that makes it seem so easy for them? You know, some people just seem to do it easy. It's a little bit like salespeople, right? You sometimes think, well, why is it that that person can sell so easily and I can't? It's always feels so difficult for me to actually sell and convert clients. That's another conversation that seems to come up quite a bit. And the truth is, it's really about what that person knows compared to what you don't know. Because sometimes it just feels like we just seem to be struggling. Like, why is it easy for those people? And even though we've got more work and, you know, all this sort of stuff's going on, why does it seem to be so difficult for us? Why do I always seem to be struggling all the time? Or you know, what happens at this stage? So I think it's important that we do stop occasionally, have a little chat about this because you know, we're getting some of these conversations are just coming up in some of our natural coaching calls about what is it that we're missing, or maybe what are we not doing, or maybe we need to stop doing this so that we can focus on this, or, you know, those sorts of conversations. And I want to just pose a little bit of a scenario to you that maybe it would be important to kind of think about. If you think about the mentality of a distance runner, someone that goes out, whether it's, you know, out on the track or whether it's just something that's running for a long distance. I often think about this because I've never been great at distance running. So I don't personally know the mentality, but I know a lot of coaches in one of the groups that I'm in that actually coach sports people. And they often talk about the mentality of a distance runner compared to a sprinter. So if we just stop and think about a distance runner, like if you're out thinking about the long haul, you're playing the long game, you're out running. Let's say you're doing one of those incredibly long, you know, events at the Olympics where you're running for like 1,000,000 kilometers. What are the things that you're actually thinking about while you're doing this compared to what a sprinter is actually thinking about? You know, what are the differences? And there's some stark, really huge, massive differences that really apply to business. You think about distance when you've got that long journey that you're thinking about. And then you've got other people that, in the case of running against other people, you're competing against these other people. And we don't want to think about we're competing against other people in business, although that's the common way of thinking about it. The reality is you're competing against yourself. So this distance that you're on, whatever the journey is, whatever the length of time is, we talk about, you know, when we're going to retire, when we're going to sell the business, when it finally gets to be this thing that you wanted it to be, that journey, that distance, the competition is against yourself. How do you get to that point without having collapsing or dramas or somehow enjoying the journey along the way? What's the difference between that and a sprinter? Well, the interesting thing is distance runners, people that think about the long haul, think about things like their strategy. They think about things like they have to have the confidence that's going to get them through it. They have to have a plan going into this that says, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, or I'm going to go a little bit faster at a certain stage, then I'm going to go slower at the next stage. That's the plan or the strategy. They might go a little bit slower at the beginning to go a little bit faster at the end. They certainly practice. They certainly think about innovation. They think about execution when they're doing it. They think about executing in the moment. They think about what's going to happen. They think about team focus. They ask for help along the way. How am I going to get better? They think of a top-down approach. Visit all of these things that these coaches that I've kind of mixed with a little bit talk about distance runners, totally different to what a sprinter is thinking about. A sprinter is thinking, I'm going to give it all for a few brief seconds, then I'm just going to collapse at the finish line. So I think it's super important that we do put into perspective, what are we really doing here? Like what's the important stuff? If you're thinking at all like we're fatigued or we're not sure what the next sort of steps are to take, think about it from this perspective. Let's put this into context of what we know so far. What have we learned so far? So some of you are new in the program right now. Some of you have been with us for a bit of time. Some of you have been with us for a long time. There are some things that are known. When we look at the factory and we put this into context of what's actually happening in your factory, how do we get so that the sequence, the stuff that's happening in your factory, the flow through there, how do we reduce the lead times and remove the stress and uncertainty and aggravation and conflict and friction in the production process? We commit to teamwork. We commit to a plan, we commit to a structure, and all that stuff that was on the page a few minutes ago. And what do we actually put into practice? We actually put into practice the sequence of when the work is being done. We put into practice putting priorities on, let's do this first instead of this. So we're changing the order of things. We're actually changing, for example, when you build your drawers, instead of waiting till the end, we'll build your drawers where all the carcasses are being cut so that those two things are happening at the same time. That's a plan, that's a strategy, that's a sequence, that's innovation. And then when the carcasses come out, we can put the drawers in them. We've now reduced our lead time. We actually really know with 100 degrees of certainty that these things that we're talking about get an amazing result. And most of you have experienced it, lived it, and are telling us, for example, Louis a couple of weeks ago said, my God, we just changed a few things in our factory, and we reduced our lead time by about 50%. So that's process. That's fixing one or two things in your process, one or two things only in the business. So let's now use that thinking to think about the next level up in your business. So that level of thinking is important for all the different practices in your business. And when I'm coming back to what's the next step or where's the long game in the business. For most of you, we haven't really gotten to the long game planning yet. We haven't really gotten into what are we going to do long term. We're still sort of in the short to medium term strategies or the short to medium term wins. And sometimes that's within the first 6 to 9 months. We nail those. Sometimes it takes 2 years before we start nailing them. But for most of you, we're still in that category of process improvement. We're going to fix this thing and it's going to get this result. We string a few processes together that have been improved and we get their sequencing right. And we've reduced that overall larger process factory. The long game for us as a coaching business, the long game is getting to the next level and the next level above that, where we can talk about your entire overall business strategies. So we can start talking about the sequence of events and things that you need to be doing on a regular basis. Just like when we improve the factory improvement, we want to talk about the overall business sequence, what things need to be done at the right time. So the point that I'm kind of getting to here is when fatigue sets in, when we get tired. We also talk about this from sporting people, that there's a reason why we practice. There's a reason why we get fit. It's so that when we get tired, when we get fatigued, we're fit enough to keep pushing through and stay in form, stay in whatever we want to call this, not get out of shape, not lose your form in fitness. So that you can keep your stride. Like if you're running, I'm running out of analogies here, but if you're a runner, you want to keep your form right to the end, even though you're fatigued. You keep your form. So in business, this is actually very, very similar. And we'd love it if we could wave a magic wand over things and shorten the time that it takes to do this. But the reality is, it just takes some time. So when we talk about getting unstuck or getting forward momentum, sometimes there is things that get in your way. There might be roadblocks, like a pandemic. And as we're learning now, a pandemic comes with fatigue. And part of the message here really is, as you're running the business, when things get tough, or when you get fatigued in any situation, it's easy to fall into old habits, or to fall into the wrong sequence of things. As an example, if you are assembling cabinets, sometimes, and we still find this with the people that we've worked with for a number of years, let's just jump into putting the carcasses together because it feels like it's easier to just put carcasses together rather than to stop and put the drawers together. And it happens a little bit in business when fatigue sets in, or particularly in these times right now where this pandemic has really stretched us all a little bit. We start getting out of shape as far as what's the right sequence of business. And we start potentially falling into old habits of rather than going about things the right way in the right sequence, we start going about it the wrong way again. And it's just natural human behavior in many cases, where rather than sort of being very regimented, because this change or this realignment of the business hasn't really landed yet, it hasn't really become the fabric of how the business is operating, it's the risk is we fall back into, well, let's just not do that and we'll just get through this. We hear this conversation a fair bit. We're just going to get through this and then we'll talk about it on the other side. Getting through something that's difficult really requires new thinking. It's a little bit like when you are a distance runner and you've put in some extra training or done things a little bit differently, then all of a sudden that extra stretching or that extra training comes into play when things got tough. Whereas last year you hadn't done that and you finished fifth or whatever the case is. Whereas now, if you do things differently in training or try a different technique or a mindset approach or something like that, and all of a sudden you finish the race first. So I know I'm using some weird analogies here, but the overall point that we're really making here is that we want to encourage everybody to not let the current challenges and the current fatigue, not let that allow you to fall back into some of the old habits or the old strategies that had put you into a bad position in business in the first place. Because that's the real risk we're in right now. When fatigue sets in, people tend to shrink and get stuck and not continue with things that are maybe still feeling a little bit difficult. So if you're in a stage right now where some of the changes in business are still new and they're fresh, and change is difficult, it's not easy. It's never something that someone just jumps on board with and runs with. And now we're hit with COVID fatigue. It is understandable that some people will want to sort of go back to some of the old methodologies, the old ways of doing things. So this message is really about the big easy is not that easy. It's actually really quite difficult. So, try not to fall back into old habits and embrace the new ones that are in front of you, because the struggle that you're feeling, the solution to that struggle is really the new methodologies, the new thinking, more knowledge, more skills, more practice, more planning, and then the difficult becomes the big easy. It's very likely that we maybe need to reset where we're at right now, because if you're a distance runner, sometimes you do take that time through the middle part of the race where you do conserve energy, you go into conservation mode, but you're reassessing what's actually happening. And then you go into the next strategy of it, which is to apply all of that to the next level of the race. So the big easy is the topic that I've put on here. Why does it seem easy for others? And it really just comes down to, if that's actually how it's feeling right now, we need to put in some strategies. We need to put in some plans. We need to talk about where you're at right now and what the next stage is, because the other people that are making it look easy, it might be easy for them right now because they are at that stage in business where they're up a level or two and working on the business itself rather than actually in the business with the gloves off doing all the work. What I know that is also happening is we're working with more people now than ever around marketing and sales conversations. And when we're tying your marketing and your sales conversations together and actually getting that happening, where we're having a flow through conversation, you're getting better clients on board. We're getting really clear about not working with this person and agreeing to work with this person. Learning how to say no is a conversation that comes up a lot, so that the flow through your business is actually happening and there's less friction. It's amazing to see the transformation of a business that's gone from working with anyone, just whoever we crosses our path, we'll try and sell them a kitchen, or no, you're not a good client, but here's someone that can help you, and this person is a good one. And being selective with who it is that comes across your world, to say yes or no to certain people. The transformation in business is amazing. And that's that next level of business of trying to get really, really clear about what you say yes to and what you say no to. Many people that we're working with right now just didn't have the confidence to say no to some people, didn't have the confidence to know that their sequencing was going to bring in the right sort of people so that they could say no to the wrong ones. So these are all strategies that you employ along the journey to get the distance that you're going to travel here to be a whole lot easier, so that it becomes at some point you're just jogging along and you're not fatigued and you're not feeling like you're at risk, or that this is just always going to be hard. So what's my overall point? Well, I've got a couple of points here, I guess. If you see other businesses that seem to be doing it easy and you just feel like it's always tough, all that's really telling us is we've got some more work to do on what it is that's tough, what's holding you back, where is the fatigue actually from, and put in some strategies around that. Or maybe the people that are making it look easy, it's not easy at all. But the mindset that I'm talking about really is the long-term mindset. And it does take a while to get these strategies that we bring to the table to land into your business and become part of the fabric of how your business operates. Because that's the other thing that just takes some time, is to, yes, we can bring a new theory to the table. Yes, we can get everybody to adopt it and start using it. But then it takes a little bit of time for it to become the fabric of how your business operates. And that's where the coaching with you strategy comes into it, that if we don't make sure that the accountability part of the new strategies and techniques is being embedded, it's at risk of slipping back. And then all of a sudden it gets hard again. So think about the strategies that we've used so far that have gotten these amazing results in your factory as being obvious and tactile, because we can see them, we can see the board, and we can change the sequence of things happening. And think about the long-term results if we were to keep doing that type of thing in all the different aspects of your business. And as you know, there's 9 foundations of your business. If we were to make sure that we work strategically with you over all 9, and then make sure that the sequence of those 9 are all put together, the end result is your business starts to become this smooth and easy, big easy thing that you work with, that you then become the business owner that everybody's looking at saying, wow, that looks easy. How do they manage to have 5 months off every year and go on holidays? How do they manage to take Fridays? All that stuff that you might see other businesses doing, or the stuff that you've been saying to yourself you want to do. Once you get to that momentum stage in business where the fabric of all these things are knitted into it, and that's how your business is operating, that's the big easy. That's where the business starts to feel like it's giving you something back that it hasn't given you all these years. Hopefully that's been a little bit of food for thought about thinking about the long-term strategies rather than any short-term, making any rash decisions about whatever this big problem is right now. It's a short-term blip for sure in the long-term strategy of your business, and continue to keep pushing forward in the strategies that you've got in place. The big easy is the long-term strategy. Getting through a pandemic is the short-term blip. Let's hear what you think. If this has landed with you, let me know. If it's total crap, let me know. But I'd love to start some conversations around this topic about playing the long game rather than the short one. Beautiful. Thanks, guys. We'll chat with you soon. Have an awesome week. Cheers.
Shut talk.